Hi folks, in today's episode we're going to be milling our own flour and baking a loaf of bread with that flour. But first, I think it would be kind of fun to bring you down to our local grist mill here, less than 10-minute walk from my house. It was built in 1833 by the local natives to grind their grains into flour. And today it's owned by the Coldwater Heritage Mill Foundation and is host to a museum in the summer and a restaurant right over there. So let's go get milling our flour. These are the items that you need for today's project. Fresh, local honey, 1 packet of Fleshman's traditional active dry yeast, salt, 1/4 cup of butter, plain tap water, and hard wheat berries, available at your local bulk food store or grocery store. So there's really only one piece of equipment that is kind of necessary to grind your own flour, and that's a flour mill. I have a Victorio. It retails for about $99 on Amazon. It's a great little starter mill. You can get them fairly expensive. They can go upwards to at least $1,000 for a wonder mill. But this is a great starter mill, and it does a good job, and it works good for me. When it comes to your wheat, there's 2 different kinds of wheat. There is hard wheat and soft wheat. Today we're going to be using hard wheat because hard wheat is meant for breads. The difference between hard wheat and soft wheat is hard wheat has a lot more gluten in it, whereas soft wheat doesn't have as much. Typically you would use soft wheat for making cakes and pastries, pie crust, that sort of thing, things that are a little bit more delicate. But when you need gluten, you need your hard wheat. So that's what we're going to be using today. So what I've done here is I've just filled our hopper with our wheat and placed a bowl underneath the hopper. So once you start grinding your flour and spinning your wheel here, you can see it coming out of the little spinners here, the little grinders. Those are titanium spinners. It takes a while. We need 4.5 cups of fresh ground flour for our recipe. So it takes a little bit to do this, but it's really rewarding. You get little bursts of energy. You just spin and spin and spin and spin, and then you slow down. So when your little dish gets full, just take it and just dump it into a bigger bowl. That's all. So I'll meet you back when I have 4.5 cups. Now we have to get our yeast activated. This is a handy little tool. It's a thermometer. You're going to want 1.5 cups of warm water. You want it between 105 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit. So just take your thermometer and run it under the tap and just wait for your reading. And that looks about right. I'm going to measure out your 1.5 cups. Put it in your bowl. Now we're going to add our honey and our yeast. You want 1/4 cup of honey. that in and stir it around. The honey is going to feed the yeast. And then you want to take your yeast, 1 packet of yeast. Here we go. And we're going to let that sit to activate. Well, the yeast is frothing and it looks like it's alive. Now that our yeast is activated, we're ready to start adding our flour and some of our other ingredients. So to this, we're going to add 1/4 cup of that melted butter. We're going to add 2 cups of our fresh ground flour. And we're going to add 1½ teaspoons of our salt. And we're going to stir this together. And we're going to slowly incorporate the rest of the flour, like 1/2 cup at a time. This loaf doesn't get too dry. It's actually a very, very moist loaf. You just keep adding your flour. It's starting to thicken. If you want, you could do this with your stand mixer, but if you're going to go to the trouble to grind all that flour, you might as well do it by hand. Just kind of completes the project. It's starting to get stiffer. Once you get to a certain point, then you can roll it out onto the counter and knead it by hand. Quite there. This is a soft loaf. But surprisingly, it bakes up really, really nice. And the seasonings are very good on it. Sometimes I find when you have a homemade bread, it's like, oh, could use with a little bit more salt. But this one is great. Okay, I think it's time to turn it out and knead it by hand. Okay. Dust your board with some of your flour. Turn out your dough. Give it a good knead. Just incorporating the last of that flour that you ground. Give it a good knead. They say the best time to make bread is when you're angry at your husband. But you know what? If you're not angry at your husband, you can always just think about someone you don't like. Just keep going. And keep kneading. developing all the gluten in your bread by the kneading. That feels pretty good. So what I'm gonna do next, I'm gonna put this in a greased bowl with a tea towel on top in a warm spot. We'll wait till it doubles in size, and then we'll knock it down, give it a little bit more of a knead, we'll shape it, and then let it rest again. Our bread's been rising for about an hour, so let's see how it looks. Well, it's definitely doubled in size, and it looks really great. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take it out, and we're gonna shape it, and we're gonna let it bake in a greased, floured bread pan. Throw a little more flour on there. There we go. Ooh, that looks nice. That looks really nice. So we're just gonna pat it out. It's about an 8-inch disc. And then we're just going to roll it up nice. Tuck in the sides. We're going to place this in our loaf pan. And we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to cover it with the cloth again, and we're going to let it rise for another hour. So here's our loaf after it's risen, and it looks really, really great. When we put it in the oven, it'll rise a little bit more. So I've set the oven to 350 degrees, and we'll check back on in about 20 minutes. Okay, folks. I just pulled this loaf out of the oven, and it looks really, really good. I think that I'm gonna end up making this again, but I think next time, I've made this loaf a few times before, but I think next time I'm gonna do it over the fire and see how well it does on the fire. Bake it in a cast iron pot. It's been really, really cold, and the weather's been really horrible here lately, so I haven't been doing much cooking on the fire, but I'm gonna, hopefully the weather starts to turn around. So that looks great. So we're gonna give that about an hour to let the crumbs set up in this loaf. And then I'll cut it open and we'll see what it looks like on the inside. Well, our bread came out very, very nice. It's nice and fluffy, and it's full of flavor. If you do try it, I hope you do if you're able to. Please leave me a comment down below as to how it came out for you. This weekend, John and I are going to be going on a camp out and doing some cooking on a fire. We got a hot tent, a winter hot tent with a wood stove. So I think you're really going to enjoy that. We're going to be doing some fun stuff and doing a lot of cooking on the fire. So stay tuned for that. And thanks for watching. I had a lot of fun doing this with you. It's a really fun thing to try. And you know, it's just fun to watch somebody else do it. So thanks a bunch, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. That would be awesome. Also, if you would share the video, that would be great too. So thanks a bunch, and we'll see you next time. Bye.